Nvidia up sharply in today's trading session, but the post-earnings rally did little to lift the broader market, or its peers for that matter. Stocks fell sharply and broadly, chip stocks being hit especially hard. Joining us now to discuss is John Vinh of KeyBanc. John, it's great to have you on. I'm going to start with Nvidia specifically. We have seen just a fast and furious flurry of price target increases today on the heels of those results. You raised your price target as well. You continue to be bullish on the stock. Why, and what do you see as the risks here, whether it's from a valuation standpoint or an increased competition, maybe not in the near term, but over the longer term standpoint?
Yeah, I think there's probably limited risk over the longer term, but certainly if you were to talk about the risk, right now you've got a company that's heavily dominant within the AI space. Their share is probably well over 90%. If you look at the implied gross margins that they're getting on their AI data center business, it's roughly about 90%. No company in the semiconductor space has ever earned 90% gross margins on their business. This is more of a softer gross margin profile. So obviously there is a huge market demand by the customer base, the hyperscalers, the consumer internet companies to kind of stand up a credible second source alternative to Nvidia. So obviously longer term, it is not sustainable. But right now we think it's such a massively expansive market that we're not close to kind of thinking about things in terms of zero sum.
Yeah. I mean, what we initially saw 24 hours ago is when these results released, other semiconductor names, including competitors like AMD, like Intel, had traded higher in sympathy. As the session unfolded today, you saw a stark reversal in that. I wonder why, and whether those are buying opportunities right now as they sell off as well.
Yeah, I think there were a couple things going on. I think you had a kind of a sell the news type of event. There was obviously a great anticipations of Nvidia reporting numbers, and a lot of these stocks kind of ran into the earnings numbers, and then you just basically have a sell-off. I think the second factor that's kind of contributing kind of to these stocks pulling back is I think you're seeing Nvidia do such an amazing job from an execution perspective. You're seeing them do such an amazing job from the roadmap perspective, right? So in the second half, they've got the second generation, their Blackwell GPUs ramping, and then going into 2025, you've got GB200, which is a systems-based architecture. And I think there's some concerns about whether the competition can kind of keep up and compete with Nvidia in the near to medium term.
John, should we read anything into the fact that Dell and Marvell, I know Dell isn't a semiconductor name, but they've recently had some significant announcements with Nvidia and are being viewed through that AI and accelerator lens, why those two bucked the trend and did end the day significantly higher? I would say Dell is a partner of Nvidia, right? So they're not competing with Nvidia. On Marvell, Marvell's kind of big opportunity in AI is really on the custom AI ASIC front, right? They're partnering with these major cloud providers and internet companies like Meta and AWS to develop their own internal AI chips, right? So we talked about kind of the need for the market to have a credible alternative. One of those alternatives is for these cloud providers to make their own chips, and Marvell's a big enabler of that. I like to look, John, at history when I think about these huge moments like we're having in AI, and there tends to be this assumption that there's going to be the number one player and then the 2 and 3 that are going to get big benefits. But sometimes, really, there's just one, right? Like if you look at who got huge off of smartphones, yeah, Samsung did well, but really it's Apple. Right, and there was talk about, what's BlackBerry going to do? What's Microsoft going to do? Well, they made their money in other places. Are we framing the AI outcomes, you think, correctly when we're talking about the second and third players, or might much more of this than we expect really accrue to Nvidia in the end?
I think you raise a good analogy, but I think you have to look at the cycle in terms of where we are. Right. Obviously, BlackBerry made its money early in the days, but obviously as the sector became more mature, Apple became the outsized beneficiary. I think we are still so early in this generative AI cycle that there are multiple winners. Like if maybe we're looking 5 to 10 years out and you're starting to see some maturity and some slowing of growth, then at that point you can start looking at more decisive winners and losers. But I think at this point, there's more than enough opportunities for more than one beneficiary besides just Nvidia in the chip space.